Hello, grade 11, and welcome to a new lecture. Our theme this time is environmental issues, so we've started a new theme now. The lesson is called Alarming Plastic Pollution in Lebanon's Water and Seafood. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to discuss ideas related to environmental issues in Lebanon, mainly plastic pollution in the sea, figure out the meanings of unfamiliar vocab words and terms related to the text at hand, identify and recall synonyms related to the theme of pollution, answer referential, inferential, and critical thinking questions related to the text, and finally chart information from the text. Putting them, meaning that you have information in the text and you need to fill in a chart using this information. Now, first we begin with the discussion question. What major environmental and ecological issues does Lebanon suffer from? Okay. We start first of all with wildfires because this is the most profound that's taking place nowadays in September and October. There is a significant increase in the amount of wildfires happening in the country, as we have clearly seen recently. 2. Garbage pollution. With the absence of any clear policy from the government for reusing, reducing, and recycling, the garbage in the country is currently flooding the streets, once again, with potential health and environmental hazards to an already ravaged country. So as you see, especially these few days also, due to issues regarding payment to garbage, people who work in the garbage sector, the dollar, Lebanese pound issue, garbage again is piling up on the streets, threatening to cause several hazards to both our health and to our environment. Number 3, air pollution. Vehicles running on fuel, factories and different industries emitting hazardous pollutants into the atmosphere without a law to prevent or limit this issue. You can see the pollution, when you're traveling from the south to Beirut or from the north to Beirut, you can almost always see a certain smog, a line of smog over the city, which is basically carbon dioxide and other major pollutants. And of course, other reasons, factories and power plants. Power plants are huge constructions that produce energy, produce electricity. The one in Jiyeh, the one in Zahrani, all of those cause air pollution because those power plants work on fuel. Okay, and finally we come to the issue which we will discuss in our lesson today, water pollution. Sewage water and garbage from homes and different industries are being dumped into Lebanon's water bodies, with plastic being the most visible of those, causing harm to marine life, life in the water, in the seas, and in turn impacting human health in the country. So those are the 4 major environmental issues that Lebanon is facing nowadays. So let's start with our vocab now. Number 1, contaminants. Contaminants is a noun, and the meaning of that, or the synonym of that, is pollutants. Plastics are considered contaminants in the sea. Carcinogens, I'm sure you took this word before. A carcinogen is any substance that is capable of causing cancer. And the adjective form is called carcinogenic. Okay, smoke from factories is carcinogenic. 3, landfills. Landfills are the disposal of waste materials by burying it, by filling an excavated pit. So they excavate a pit, they open a pit in the ground and then they fill it with garbage. That's why it's called a landfill. The Mediterranean Sea, okay, what borders us from the west, the sea bordering Lebanon from the west. Consumption is the action of using up a resource. We consume fuel. The consumption of fuel is causing a lot of harm to the environment everywhere. The verb is consume. The noun is consumption. Logging. Logging is the activity of cutting down trees for wood. Dam, as I said before, is a huge construction built to store water for different uses such as production of energy. Like the one we have, the one in Araon and the one that is being disputed in Bisri, okay, which is not yet built, but the purpose of a dam is to store water and to produce energy such as electricity. Number 8, urban. Urban is anything relating to the city, of or relating to the city. For example, Beirut is an urban area. Rural is the opposite of that, of or relating to the countryside or to the village. Illegal, obviously something against the law. The opposite of that would be legal, meaning lawful. Dismal, the sea in Lebanon is in a dismal state, miserable or gloomy. Inadequate means not enough. There is an inadequate amount of clean water for irrigation in Lebanon. Now we start with our lesson called Alarming Plastic Pollution in Lebanon's Water Seafood. Alarming means it's a cause for concern and worry. Paragraph 1, Beirut. The average Lebanon resident, person living in this area, may be eating more than 30,000 small pieces of plastic per year from seafood alone, according to the results of the first study on microplastic particles in the country. Notice how the author started this article. This is a great hook with a shocking fact. Paragraph 2, the study which analyzed 2 marine species from the sea, widely consumed in Lebanon, the European anchovy, which is commonly eaten fried as the bizri, and the spiny oyster, often served simply under the name mussels, found high levels of plastic contamination in both. So those 2 marine species are widely consumed in Lebanon. Many of you have probably consumed them. Of course, those are filled with plastic particles, as we might see. 5, high levels of plastic contamination. It doesn't need to be visible. This plastic could be micro, something that will only be seen with a microscope. Paragraph 3, according to the study, the average Lebanon resident consumes 7.5 kilograms of seafood per year. So the Lebanese people eat a lot of seafood. When that is multiplied by the average of 4,500 small plastic pieces found in every kilogram of oyster, they could be consuming, look at this, 31,500 micro again means very, very small or microscopic, microplastic particles per year. The study found significant important amount, high levels of contamination in the seawater and sediments in Beirut, Sidon, and Tripoli, the 3 areas it surveyed. Paragraph 4, the most prominent plastic in seawater was polyethylene, the most widely found, widely used in plastic bottles and bags. Sediments showed a higher presence of polypropylene, a plastic used in textiles and packaging for consumer products. Polystyrene, also commonly used in packaging, was present in larger quantities in the organisms sampled. Inside those organisms, particles from all those mentioned. The levels of plastic particles found were alarmingly high, shockingly high, in comparison to other Mediterranean regions, the study concluded. So, of course, Cyprus is a Mediterranean region, Tunis is a Mediterranean region, but the ones that are found in Lebanon are alarmingly high. Paragraph 5, the concentration of microplastics was found to be 4.3 pieces per cubic meter of seawater, compared to between 0.17 and 0.62 in the Western Mediterranean. Take a look at the difference here. While seawater contamination was greatest in Sidon at 6.7 microplastic particles per cubic meter, sediments were most contaminated in Tripoli. The study said that this might be a consequence of the general northward circulation of water along Lebanon's coast. This is why it's mostly concentrated in Tripoli. This is where the water goes. According to the study, Lebanon's coastal landfills, talked about those where garbage is put, may partially be to blame for seawater contamination. Sidon's high levels of contamination provided preliminary evidence that a massive decommissioned landfill on the city's coast wasn't the final resting place of plastics, but a potential source of microplastics, because the breakdown and release of the tiny particles into the environment is a long-term process. Okay, most of you have passed by the sea mountain and the landfills while going to Beirut from Tyre, or while going through Sidon. Okay, those landfills or mountains of garbage all contain plastic, but this is not their final resting place, as the article is saying. When they are broken down, they are decomposed, and where do they go? If you notice, the landfill or the mountain of garbage is located right next to the sea. It goes, of course, directly to the sea, into sea life and into our stomachs and systems when we consume this seafood. Moving on. The study also found that the same plastics dumped in landfills were present in sediments, the sea, and the marine life surveyed. Even though some landfills are no longer active, their waste continues to find its way into the sea due to mismanagement and lack of proper treatments. You have this landfill or this dump, you don't treat it. The government doesn't do anything about it, just rests there and goes into the environment, goes into our water bodies and ends up inside the human body and affect their health. Lebanon should be considered as an important microplastics source in the Mediterranean basin. Sharif Jum'a, one of the study's authors, told the Daily Star that the National Center for Marine Studies, with which he is affiliated, was continuing to research the thesis that runoff from landfills, what is produced by landfills after it rains or such, known as leachate, is involved in the pollution. Currents may also play a role in hemming plastics into the eastern Mediterranean, where Lebanon lies. Microplastic pollution is a growing global concern, a cause of worry. The tiny particles are either intentionally produced, such as in the case of polystyrene beads used in packaging, or result from the breakdown of larger plastics in the environment over time. Areas with high human activity, such as the Mediterranean, are prone to seeing a relatively higher concentration of the particles than elsewhere. The UN Special Rapporteur on Hazardous Substances and Waste, Baskut Tunçak, has referred to microplastics as a growing concern to a number of human rights, including a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Of course, one of our very basic human rights is access to clean water, access to good health and healthcare. And that we're not getting in this part of the world. Paragraph 11, a June study by the University of Newcastle in Australia found that people could be ingesting meaning taking in, 5 grams of plastic a week. That's a lot. The weight of a credit card. Can you imagine that? Per week you might be taking that amount, okay, consuming it through the food you are eating. While the health risks have not yet been documented in depth, some studies have shown the building blocks of these plastics could interfere with natural hormone activity in humans. So there could be hormonal disturbances as a result. Additionally, many of the substances added to plastics, such as coloring, include heavy metals that are known on par with the Adriatic Sea, but much higher than the Western Mediterranean, where 11 to 40% have been found to contain the particles. Every single oyster surveyed showed some sign of contamination, and 86% showed evidence of microplastics in their soft tissue. Oysters, this very, very popular seafood in Lebanon. Okay, paragraph 12, the study titled Microplastics Pollution Along the Lebanese Coast, Eastern Mediterranean Basin, Occurrence in Surface Water Sediments and Biota Samples is set to be published in the December issue of Science of the Total Environment, a leading international journal. It is just the latest academic work to reveal the extent of plastic pollution in Lebanon. In 2017, a study by the non-profit reporting organization Org Media showed that Lebanon's tap water had the second highest concentration of plastic particles in Lebanon. Guys, look at this shocking fact. The water in the taps, even the one that we can drink, for example, Ras Al Ain, etc., they tell us this is drinkable water, has the second highest concentration of plastics in the world, with just fewer than 94% of samples showing contamination. Tap water is not commonly used for drinking in Lebanon, but it is used for cooking. Many do that. Cleaning and bathing, meaning it is almost certainly ingested or taken in. You cook with it, okay. We don't we don't drink water from the tap, we cook with it, okay? Boiling it doesn't take away the microplastics. They are still there and we ingest them, and thus our health is affected. Finally, Hussam Hawa, the director of DFAF, the environmental consultancy that provided the Lebanese tap water samples to Org Media, said that a large portion of the plastics entered Lebanon's groundwater via seawater intrusion, a thesis supported by this latest study. Okay, now moving on to the exercises after we finished reading. Answer the following questions in complete sentences using your own words. Number 1, what does the information provided in paragraph 3 tell you about safety of seafood consumption in Lebanon? Here I displayed the paragraph. Obviously they gave us numbers. What does that say? In one sentence it says that eating seafood in Lebanon is dangerous. Obviously it is not safe to eat seafood. Number 2, according to paragraph 4, displayed here again, what is the source of polyethylene found in the sea in Lebanon? In your opinion, what can be done about it? Now, we said that the main source of polyethylene is plastic bags and plastic bottles, which we use so much in Lebanon. Walk by any beach from Saida to Beirut and you see the amount of plastics dumped. You can see it, the plastic gallons, the plastic bottles, the plastic bags. It's just so obvious. So, the answers. Number 1, eating seafood is not safe in Lebanon due to the huge amount of microplastics found in them. 2, the source of polyethylene found in the sea in Lebanon is plastic bags and bottles. What, in your opinion, can be done? I wrote, people should be advised to use less disposable plastic bottles and either use glass bottles or water bottles that could be refilled. Also, instead of plastic bags, shops should start using recyclable bags that won't hurt the environment and cause plastic pollution. Okay? Now, moving on to number 3, what piece of evidence from paragraph 5 shows that sea pollution in Lebanon is worse than many other countries? Okay? They compared Lebanon to other countries. We can see that. Okay? Number 3, this is number 4, obviously. Number 4, why are landfills in Lebanon's potential hazard according to paragraph 7? The study also found that the same plastics dumped in landfills were present in sediments in the sea. We talked about it. It rains on those landfills, or there's a storm, or the wind carries all this Okay, after they disintegrate, after they break down, obviously, where do they go? Those microplastics and hazards go directly into the water bodies. Finally, number 5, which basic human right is violated by the issue of microplastics in Lebanon? Obviously, as we said, the right to clean water. We as humans have the basic right to, or access to, clean water. Okay, there they go. This is the piece of evidence. And due to poor management and treatment of abandoned landfills, the waste from these places continue to drain into the sea. And finally, the human rights violation caused by microplastics in Lebanon's waters is the right to clean and potable or drinkable water that citizens in any country are entitled to. It is my right to have clean, drinkable water as a human being. So obviously, this human right is violated. It is not being upheld. So this is it for this lecture. We will continue with the exercises, of course, in class, and we will discuss this issue further. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.